Oh, wait. Sorry, Janey, go backstage. Nobody even saw her. Okay.
Don't put her away. People are really excited about this. They're really
Silly,
excited
perhaps.
about this.
A more suited word would be funny. And why the need for so? Did I say something about silly?
You
I like
did,
the
and I
word
changed
silly.
it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was drugs. It was drugs. I don't know.
You did not know. You did not say silly drugs. Because
Silly
drugs aren't
drugs.
silly. They're a very serious problem. I need to make a new graphic for this show that's like yellow flag. Like, stop.
Do I get a yellow card? Okay.
Drugs are not funny.
Director not funny. Hey,
actually, that's not true. They can be very.
Backpack. I will always love you. Thank you. Hey, Chloe. It's Chloe's fault that Janey Godley's on the show today, so we might as well make her name known right away. Chloe started sending me little clips of Janey Godley, and I kept laughing. And every now and again, I kept asking, could you translate this one for me? Because I didn't ken some of what you say, Janey, especially when you get excitable. And, you know, one thing I was going to say, and I stopped touching the buttons. Sorry.
Thank you.
Carrie says don't touch
I have
the
one
buttons.
job on this show.
Why is it always Sigourney Weaver? What's Sarah? What's her name? Who does the ones where she imitates Trump all the time and she's getting all this thing? Janey does that across a span of people and a span of creatures and all kinds of other things where it's the opposite. She brings her voice to really funny stories and she'll talk about things like COVID updates and all that. And that's just now. Like, this is because I discovered Janey, you know, mid coronavirus 2020. But there's a body of work here. Hi from Australia. Who knew? There's a body of work here, but then it gets crazier because as I started to dig in, as I started to do my homework, as I started to, you know, read about Janey, oh my gosh, the life. So we're going to talk about that as well because, you know, it's almost like it's almost like this requirement that you can't have comedy if you don't have tragedy or something. And I swear that, you know, in Janey's case, she got an extra super big serving of it. So
Janey's amazing. Yeah, she had difficult upbringing, to say the least. And she's done something completely different than anyone else in her family and made a living doing a whole bunch of different things. We'll talk about it. But when you talked about her, she was a comedian, I was like, okay, I get that. She does so many things. She's got an autobiography, hand-painted cards. She does a podcast. I mean, she is everywhere.
Let's do it because people are going to get crazy if we don't.
Yeah, they're waiting.
I'll hit the button. I really will.
Yay! There she is.
You did it. So even the title of your book, by the way, Handstands in the Dark, sounds like, oh, a fun little memoir. Not so much. It is. This has to be the way interviews go for you. It has to be that everyone wants to talk about the start. I don't. I want to start now because I feel like everything that influenced and inspired who you are is being brought to bear in this really weird time where you can't go do your shows and where you're forced to like shake your dog's face to make us laugh. Let's talk there. Let's start there. What is it like to be someone who needs the crowd, you know, for your job? And what is that like to have to make a new style and a different style of entertainment so that you can be you and you can express you and still share your political views as well as your humor?
Well, I've been podcasting for over 10 years with my daughter, Ashley. Hi, everybody. And I've always been a writer, and I wrote plays and I wrote blogs for 10 years. I wrote a daily blog for years. So I've always had a background of other content, because being a woman in stand-up, you don't always get the opportunity to express yourself, either because of sexism, because of misogyny, because I'm a working class Scottish person. And I'm older. So, you know, I always had to find ways to show everybody who I am from a different angle. I'm not going to get on, you know, live at the Apollo or any of the big TV shows, because I'm old and funny and I'm Scottish and I'm a working class woman, and they prefer younger. It's like porn. They prefer younger people doing it bad than older people doing it really good. So
I've heard. That's why I don't get offers anymore.
I'm sure you do.
Why is that even so good? Janey,
Only because
you
I
know,
went into fetish stuff, Janey.
Janey, but comedy has changed a little. Do you feel like there's maybe even still a future chance? And I say that because I'm thinking of like Hannah Gadsby, representing autism. By the way, her show Nanette has really upset so much of the comedy community. They've decided this isn't comedy, this is a performance, and it's fine.
I got that.
Yeah.
I did a show back in 2003 where
Right.
I spoke about autism, my husband's autism. I spoke
Right.
about child abuse, and I spoke about my mum's murder, and I spoke about living with a crazy family and stuff. And back then, even other comedians were like, well, this isn't comedy. And I was doing that 17 years ago, and it really freaked people out. And I thought, I'm not the kind of person that takes well to people telling me what I should do. So I just did it more to annoy people, basically. See, if the world had agreed with me, I'd have went away, but they kept saying, shut up, so I shouted louder. So yeah, I love Hannah. I've known Hannah for years. We travelled in New Zealand together. We've done shows at Edinburgh together. I've known Hannah for a long time. And it's wonderful to see people talking about child abuse and autism and talking about the tougher subjects. And obviously it took a woman to do it and to bring it to the fore so honestly, with transparency, that it made everybody go, wow, well, maybe this is what comedy is. I don't know. What is comedy? I've watched so many men naked on stage carrying a plank of wood. Apparently that's funny. And I thought it was shit. So comedy's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
You know, that's true. How many people have sat through regular meetings with guys that thought they were funny that lasted for hours? Never mind, they think they deserve to be paid for it.
See in the 80s and 90s, if some parents had just told their boys they'd done well, we'd have suffered a lot less shit in our life.
No kidding.
I see one man, my mom never made me the right toast. I'm like, oh,
yeah. You know, whining was just not tolerated at my house. So, you know, I learned how to unwrap my own processed food at a young age.
Yeah, my mother wore skull sandals. It was just a piece of wood with a strap. We did not argue back. We did what we were told.
Right, because those sandals could come off, I'm guessing.
Very quickly. Like the Matrix, you had to dodge them really quickly.
You know what I discovered is that these little golden books made out of cardboard were the perfect size to slip into my pants. So if I was going to get hit, they didn't notice it was there because it was thin enough.
I never get scalped in the butt. I never really got hit much. My mum wasn't a hitter, but Jesus Christ, the fear of her madness was enough, you know. My mum could be across a crowded room and just look at you and go, and I'm like, I'm gonna die, you know. There was.
When you and I were talking a little bit before the show, I'd mentioned some of the comedians I've talked to have said that they don't have anything going on right now, and I was like, who has anything going on right now? The answer is you. You have lots going on right now. So
yeah.
And that's not an accident.
I was writing a book today. I've been in the office writing a new book, and oh my God, it's such a trauma. Writing a new book. I'm starting to wish that I had never said yes to the new book. I'm like, ugh. But I'm writing a book. I've just written another play for the National Theatre of Scotland, which comes out next week. I'm doing a new TV pilot. I'm on the STV every week as part of their panel. I do voiceovers every day. I do live streams on Facebook at night. I make merchandise. I create merchandise. Frank, get the door. And I do my own handcrafted cards. That says I'm up to high dough, which is a Scottish word for anxious. Salt Spring, somebody there from Salt Spring. I've been to Salt Spring Island.
That's funny because we were just talking about that.
Yeah, we've been to Salt Spring Island. We went on a dare to Salt Spring Island.
On a dare?
Yeah, a dare, yeah. We had 2 weeks off, Ashley and I, and about 8 years ago, somebody says, come to Salt Spring. We're like, meh, okay. Went on a plane to Vancouver, went on 2 boats and went to a very creepy island, which is beautiful, but very hippie-ish. And people were like, hey, we're like, are we going to be stabbed? No, just presented with kittens and wildflowers. Thank you very much.
Oh, Chloe wants a little bit of a peek into the new book. Are you a, kiss and tell
Nobody
ahead of
knows,
time?
but for Chloe, I shall tell you, the book is set in 2 timelines. It's set in the 1970s and it's set in today. And that is really hard to write. So I hate everybody, Chloe.
Me too.
So what makes you think that that's a good idea? Like, did you see something? Did you, I don't know, The Gentleman, or like, did you watch some film or something that made you say, oh, I can do that?
No. Last November, I had 3 publishers meet me in the same day, which was quite awkward because 2 of them were in the same building. And they decided they wanted to buy a book. And I went for the publisher that said, write what you want. I went, okay. And then that's what I come up with. And now I'm stuck with it, so I've got to do it. So that'll learn me.
To have all your meetings happen on the same day so they see each other and feel competitive and give you whatever you want.
Yeah. It was weird. It was really weird.
If you were to explain your success, if you were to explain what makes people just this is like a crazy amount of people. Like, this is like, you paid a few thousand people to show up or something. What is it that brings them to you? And what is it that keeps them with you? Because there's 2 different things, right? There's the kind of novelty of, oh, she's interesting. And then there's keeping them for this many years. How have you done that?
I think it's just my absolute honesty. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I tell the truth about how I feel. I mean, I do a live stream at 9 o'clock. It used to be 7 nights a week, but now as lockdown is even, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I cry, talk about anxiety. I talk about the fear of suicide. I talk about the funniness of the sausage dog that I've got. I talk about my husband's autism. We speak about how it feels to cope in these times, because people can keep being upbeat and doing their TED Talks. But at the end of the day, Chris, everybody has these like 4 or 5 small panic attacks every day. Like, am I going to die? Do I have a cough? What's going to happen? What if I die? Is Ashley got a cough? And we go through that. And I think if we're very honest about how we feel, then everybody else can feel it gives them the okay to go, fuck yeah, I'm scared too. We're living in a pandemic, Chris. It's frightening. People are losing their houses. People are losing their jobs. People are going to work with people who have got a virus that might come home and kill their family, but they have to do it. And I think that's why people go, oh yeah, she's not talking shit. She's being honest. So,
well, because they feel it themselves. They just don't have the avenue to say it. Linda wants to know, who's the most infuriating person you know?
My husband, of course. My husband, who's got autism and love and annoyance all in one big giant ball of madness. It's hard living with somebody who has got autism. You very rarely hear about the other side of it. You always hear about the person who has autism. And I'm very honest about how fucking frustrating it can be, but yet invigoratingly honest, and gives me a better perspective into my comedy. So, and he remains anonymous. Nobody's ever seen him, and his real name isn't used in the book, and he's got no social media footprint. And some people think it doesn't exist, which is
oh, come on.
If you were going to invent a husband, why would you invent an autistic one?
Yeah, exactly.
Because then no one can see him.
Here.
You're like, no. He doesn't
like somebody said it there. Every night I talk about, you bring your emotional life jacket and you inflate it every morning to keep your family afloat. And we talk about the emotional life jacket a lot, about how it's hard. I mean, there's some days where I just don't want to get up, and I've never been given to depression, Chris. I'm very lucky. I was never a person who suffered mental illness or depression. But during COVID, there's some mornings I wake up and go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm awake. Why can't I just go back to sleep and not have to leave this room? And I think a lot of people feel like that. And it's good to be honest and speak about it,
Reading your book, your first book, is a lot like well, the first thought I had, I'll just go with, is like, you know, if someone handed you the biggest, hottest shit and said, take a bite. I don't want to do this. Have some more. I don't want to do this. So like just the things that transpired. And again, I don't want to talk about it because I know you've talked it to death in some ways.
I don't mind you speaking about it, Chris. I really don't mind.
You're
Well,
like,
what
I'm
I
not going
think
to
is-
ask you. I'm not going to ask you.
What I love is you're saying I'm never prone to depression. I'm like, you're the most qualified to be prone to depression person in the world.
I know.
I lay on my bed and feel sad because no one liked my video yesterday.
Then you're an asshole. That's your own stupidity. That's you
right.
expecting the world to like you. The
That's
world
right.
doesn't have to like you.
What? Why when she says it, are you like, oh, she's right? And when anybody else says it, you're
That's
like,
true.
you
I don't know. It's a
know.
magical spell.
You just have to accept that as people won't like you. And you know what? Fuck them. There's people who will like you. And see if people take time out their day. Here's the thing, Chris. See if the people in your family say to you, I love you. And you go, that's nice. Why would it affect you if a complete stranger says, I hate you? Why is their opinion more valid than the people who love you? That's like a guy shouting at his car going, you're a fat bitch. I'm like, you're not banging my door. Why does your opinion matter? You know?
You're right about that. My mom and dad come to the show every day. So I guess that's what I could say about that, right?
Yeah,
every day. And it's early for them, Janey.
There's 7 a.m.
So
No. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant it's their 7
I
a.m.
Oh, no,
get
like that's
that.
their commitment is what I meant.
But I think because I was always surrounded, my mum had terrible mental problems and she ended up in an asylum a few times. That's what it was called then. And my brother was a drug addict and he had a lot of mental problems. And my everybody in the family was on Valium and it was the 70s. And I'm steeped in this because I'm writing about this just now, about how it was just normal for working class poor people to be full of Valium and just get on with life. And I think that because I understood what mental illness was, I could recognize it and identify it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not prone to being blue. I am. Sure. But I don't have a self-destructive mental illness where it takes over my life. And I understand it. And Ashley, my daughter, who's a stand-up, Ashley speaks very openly about her anxiety and her mental health as well, which I think is brilliant. She should speak about it. And it's important that and there is days where I feel so shitty where I'm like, I don't want to wake up. I grab the sausage dog and I just lie there and go back to sleep, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. And we have to put our emotional life jacket on and keep our family afloat. That's hard. It's really hard.
You and your daughter both being in stand-up, is that hard or does it help? Like, does she understand you better or does it make it like you guys are in conflict a little bit?
No, we understand each other very well. She's been around comedy since she was 8. But, you know, she saw me do stand-up since she was a kid. So she's always been immersed in it. So she understands the machinations of the job and she knows the whole job inside out. She says things like, do you know what I hate? I hate that I spend hours writing like a 10-minute set and you just wander into a club, pick up a mic, talk shit and everybody laughs. How dare they when I have carefully crafted jokes?
Oh, that's so funny you're saying that with Chris here because everybody feels that way about Chris when he speaks. They're like,
oh, they hate
he just
me.
wandered in and said some stuff. And
they hate me that way.
She said, it makes me so mad that you can just get up there and go, remember shoes? And people laugh. She's like, don't fucking laugh at that. That's not a real joke.
It just worked. It just worked because I remember shoes. The old Seinfeld method.
I don't actually say that. I've never said remember shoes, but you know, that's.
Write it down. Put it on a card. Did you, this is one of those awful comedian questions. Did you idolize certain comics? Who was your kind of hall of fame of comics when you were learning about them and thinking about this? Or did you just do it yourself?
I just did it myself. I mean, when I started out doing comedy, there wasn't a female Scottish comic doing stand-up comedy. There was comedy actresses, you know, but there wasn't a woman doing stand-up, a Scottish woman. So it was interesting, but I mean, I always loved like Dave Allen, the Irish comic. I loved Billy Connolly. I loved American female, you know, like Joan Rivers and stuff like that. But nobody was doing what I was doing. Nobody was speaking about rape and murder and child abuse and death and making really dark subjects funny. Nobody was doing that. And I thought, I don't know how to do anything else.
Can we go there one more minute about making jokes from murder and that sort of thing? Some people carry their trauma with them. Some people, you know, we're very close to something like that. What's a tool for them? What's a Janey tool that lets them dissect and take away some of that power that murder has over them?
I think talking about abuse and murder and stuff. I mean, for instance, my mum was murdered, but her name will never be forgotten. Because of me, I wrote her in a book. And although she was forgotten at the time, and the police are like, well, she's just an alcoholic woman, you know, this kind of shit happens. But for the rest of my life, people will know her name was Annie Curry. So I think it's empowering to be able to speak about these subjects and take the power away from the abuser and go, yeah, you might have been a child abuser, but I'm an award-winning comedian and you're now dead. So that's a good feeling as well.
It's so this question from Jeremy, who's in, I think, Thailand right now. How do you turn your sad story into your true story?
Well, the sad story is always true, you know. It's always a true story anyway. I don't make up stories.
Right.
If I was going to make up a story about myself, it'd be a lot more interesting than the actual true story.
I would but me the time that I won Miss World competition and had sex with Richard Gere on an island, but not a creepy island, but just an island.
Exactly. I mean, those things happen.
Not a creepy island, not like a held captive island, like a tropical island where I had coconuts as a bra, you know, and we danced and we had fun, and he was dressed as a naval captain.
Well, not an admiral. I mean, shoot a little higher. It's your fantasy.
Whatever, an admiral. He had a boat. He was in charge of a boat.
Or two captains.
A sexy pirate.
Two captains. It's as good as an admiral.
It sounds like we're describing a bunch of Halloween costumes at this point. Is it a pirate? No, it's a sexy pirate. Is it an island? No, it's a sexy island.
It was a double captain.
Send Chris a clicky pen, Janey.
Yeah, click, 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 click. Yeah.
You know,
not a creepy island.
Carrie and I both have children with autism, so we don't have significant others with autism, but we have two children with autism, and it is fun to talk about. You know, to try to, you know, stave off your own madness. Like, for instance, when the child perseverates over something, I'm assuming your husband as well, like he's waiting for something that hasn't quite happened. And we have to do the pacing and we have to do the thing and we have to ask the question 8,000 times, you know? So I think there's a lot of power in helping understand those things. Like, for instance, when the kids are growing up, how with autism, a lot of times they fall back so many years sometimes when they learn something new. And so, you know, once you learn that, you go, oh, okay, well, that's a story. But before that, it's, you know, I guess what I'm saying is that you're telling these stories allows a lot of bridge making, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people get upset that I tell stories about my husband's autism. Like, you're mocking him. I'm like, dude, 40 years I've been sleeping with a man who wakes me up to ask me who my favourite Roman emperor is. I think you'll find I've served my time here. I'm allowed to be able to talk about this now. And he's very proud. And Ashley is on the spectrum too. So she speaks about it, how it affects her brain. But last night, a typical conversation was last night when I was writing the book and I felt like a big block and I couldn't get past it. And I was like, oh, I can't write this book. And my husband turns around and says, why can't you write the book? I went, he doesn't get the nuance of it's really difficult. He's like, well, you shouldn't have taken on a book if you can't write. It's like, shut up. And I'm like, it's fine, I'll get there. And he's like, you wrote a book before and you wrote it well and it's still selling after 15 years. So surely you can write this book. And I just wanted to grab his face and go, shut up. Just shut up, you don't understand. But I just sat there and went, yeah, that's right. And Ashley came into the room and she went, is Dad telling you that you can just write a book because you wrote a book? It just becomes part of our social acceptance that And he says it like he is the world's expert on authorship. And I'm like, have you ever written a book? He's like, no, because nobody's ever offered me a book. It's just as fine.
Maybe if you publicized me more in your show. So you offer me a book deal.
Right. It's just fine. Just stroke the sausage dog. It's fine. But you get there.
That sausage dog loves to be pet. I was amazed by how malleable it is.
Yeah, she's like a set of bagpipes. She can get a right good go at her. She loves it.
You have to do this for Jeremy. Just go, shut up. Shut up, Jeremy.
She is a monster, the sausage dog. She's the cutest dog in the world, but she hates everybody outside our circle, literally. The whole world she hates. So she has a stroller, a pram that we take her out in. And she can walk so far because she's a rehome. We didn't get her as a puppy, and the people who had her before had lots of pups out. So we got her, and my husband says, I don't want a dog. I've never had a dog. I don't want to look at a dog. I hate dogs. I've never had a dog. That night, my husband's got the dog in bed, kissing it in the mouth and saying, I love you to the dog. We're like, okay, that's weird. He now just adores the dog, and we got her, and she almost died twice, cost us like 7,000 British pounds to save her life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She's been the most expensive habit any of us has collectively taken part in. But she's nippy to everybody. And I had her out in the stroller yesterday. And there was this wee old Scottish man with a walker. He was so old. And he got too close to the pram. And Honey's like, arr, arr, barking. And he got frightened. I'm like, you're a monster. You're a bad girl. She's like, I don't like people near me. I was like, oh, you're such a bitch. She's such a nippy bitch. She looks really cute, but she's got the personality of, I don't know, a mass murderer is in there.
Jeremy wants to pay to watch you sleep. That's not sounding super kosher to me.
That
either.
sounds like he's one of my in-laws. It's one of my husband's creepy brothers, like, go to sleep.
Oh my gosh, I'm never going to recover. Listen, one thing I'm thinking as I'm sitting here, I'm Irish by heritage. Carrie is as well. She has an Irish passport.
Yeah.
Why did I think that must be the best incredible branding in the world that we call it Luck of the Irish?
Yeah.
Because I just heard Luck of the Scottish be far more intense than Luck of the Irish. Luck of the Scottish is so much worse. What the hell?
Because they make their own luck.
Yeah, we just hate it. My husband's mum was Irish. We found that out years later when I was researching my first book. She died in 1975. He didn't know that she was actually Irish, but she changed her name because, the prejudice against the Irish back then.
Right.
And Ashley's family is from Roscommon, and she just looks like a big Irish girl. She's got the same as you, Karen, the big forehead, the eyes, the millions of hair. Yeah.
All the hair in the world.
That's funny because when I flew through Scotland, I went to Edinburgh, and as I was going through, one of the security guards said, "Oh, you're definitely Scottish because the red hair." And I was like,
Yeah. My hair's jet black. It went grey and I dyed it. But my hair, I saw my wedding pictures, and my hair is just one colour. There is no tones. It's just black, and you can't distinguish it from anything in the pictures. It's just black. I was like, where did that come from? That's weird. I don't know. My hair
hasn't been kind to any of us, Janey. So
it's
really not.
I got to the hairdressers last week. Finally got there. My husband did
right?
offer to cut my hair, but I've saw him with scissors, and I'm like, nah, it's fine.
Oh, now he can write a book. He can cut hair. What can't he do? Can he make hand-painted cards for you?
I cut my own fringe. And my hairdresser was not pleased, but
what can you do?
The wee drama queen.
She is a wee drama queen, Susan. You're right. She's a wee fussy drama queen. She's got, can I show you her bed? Yeah, when you see her bed. There, it's a wee ramp.
Yep.
And her wee bowls, and she's got that whole bed at the window because she's the queen.
You made her a ramp. A lot of people are like, the dog's not allowed on the bed.
A joiner came in and built a ramp. My husband, the man that didn't want a dog, got a ramp built.
Of course.
She has a bed at the window. I'm not allowed to sit there. That's the dog's bed.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
You know, some people get pets and initially they're reluctant, but they grow to love them. That happens.
Yeah, he didn't want a dog, and now his life is the dog. Ashley said to me, "Mum, I heard my dad say you're my favorite girl to the dog." She got all jealous and possessed.
That's going into the new routine.
Yeah.
Janey,
Yeah.
what's the you've had to do corporate gigs, I would have to presume. You've done everything. You've got, yeah. What is that like for you these days? Well, not these days, but what do you bring to them, right? Because what you do when you have your stage, or what you do when it's your domain, it's always a little different than when you work with business. But what kind of parts of the message do you bring to business? What's your storyline for there?
Oh, when I do corporate gigs, they don't book me for my business enterprise, although they should, because I've been a successful bar owner and I've been a successful author and playwright. But no, it's just a stand-up. But corporate gigs are the hardest gigs in the world. You know, I'm actually loving doing them on Zoom because I don't have some guy shouting at me like they do at corporate gigs, where there's just one random guy in a dinner suit going, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "I thought I told you to stay in the car." But, you know, so it's good on Zoom. You can do it easier. But corporate gigs aren't my favorite.
No,
Someone's
I would think.
asking, are you going to do the comedy treasure hunt in the park, Janey?
Oh, that's such a good question, Shona. Last week, Chris, I decided that I missed a live audience so much that I was going to go into the park and just run around shouting comedy at people because I miss an audience. But then I thought, that's insane. And maybe
Yes,
I
but I
shouldn't
love
do
it.
that.
No,
But it
you
was
should
too
do it.
late because I put it on Facebook and I was like, can we be in the comedy treasure?
You have to do it now.
Such a dick.
Now you're committed.
It is different, especially when you said about doing Zooms and all that. It is so different to not have that energy in a room. I mean, that's when people say, why comedy? I mean, you write plays. You know why you write a play? So you don't necessarily have to be on the stage. Someone else could ultimately do it, I guess. Yeah. But with comedy, it's only that energy. When you're there and it's you, the mic, and the people, you can still bomb after all your years.
Yeah, I am missing an audience so much. And I'm missing the Edinburgh Fringe. Somebody brought it up there. This is the first year. It's so funny because I decided to call my show this year, Janey Godley is cancelled, and the whole Fringe get cancelled. So I cursed it somehow. But this is the first year in like 20 years I've not been to the Fringe. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my August because it's always in Edinburgh, you know. My husband said it's the first time we can spend my birthday together. I'm like, well, that's not guaranteed.
And you were like, I've got to write my book.
Yeah, I've got to be doing shit, you know.
And you've got to build a new ramp for the dog. So we're both.
I'm sure they've reopened that little Harry Potter store or something. I'm sure there's some.
Yeah, something. I can take a job in the shop. Something can happen. But I'm missing an audience, Chris, so badly. I just want to be in front of an audience. It's driving me up the wall.
But
and
for
I keep
you,
thinking,
that's personal. Like you feel that way, but other
Yeah, what if-
comedians,
what
that's
if I'm
all
not
they
funny?
do. And now
What
they
if
have
it's
literally no
fun?
income now. It's because
Yeah,
they
well,
didn't
you
put
know
themselves
what?
up like you did.
People should have adapted, you know. You shouldn't have just one job. You should have been doing Zoom. You should have been doing stuff on Facebook. You should have been doing YouTubes. You should have been doing stuff. I'm one of those people who's so scared of poverty that I've done 17 different jobs. So if one falls through, I'll have another. If that falls through, because I live in such dire poverty, I am absolutely petrified I'll be poor. So I'm like, I can build houses. I can fly a helicopter. It's just
Right? I'll give it a shot.
Can
Oh,
you
I
guys?
could be.
I'm the captain of this ship, Richard Gere.
Well, you know, and your husband will support you. He's like, why can't you fly a helicopter?
Yeah, he can
Do it.
stand behind
do
me
anything.
with a
Just get it
level
done.
going, this isn't quite straight. Oh my God.
You know, when you said that about the ongoing fear of poverty, no matter where your status, that made me think of Jay Leno, who I don't find especially. I don't like his humor so much, but he's from Massachusetts, down the way from where I am here originally, and he says to this day he is afraid to death that something will happen and he'll have no more money again. And he said, when you've been there, you never stop being there. And the guy said to him, Jay, you have like 300 classic cars. That right there if you just sold the cars and did nothing else, that's a good 20 or so million. You know, you could live on that the whole rest of your life, right, Jay? I don't know. What if something else? And
Yeah,
really,
I'm loving it. People are putting up the hashtag pay Ashley a wage, because on the live stream, Ashley always goes, I don't get paid for anything she makes me do.
slave labor.
Yeah, no, she is actually such a good mentor for me. I mean, before lockdown, I'd go do a gig and do a gig and do a gig here and do a gig there, and she stopped me. She went, Mum, you don't have to leave the house for 50 quid anymore. You don't have to go and do these wee gigs. You've got money in the bank. You're not poor. You need to stop it. And I'm like, but it's £50. And she's like, I'll give you £50 to stay in. How about that? And it gets to the point where you're just petrified of being poor, you know, and I will always have that. I lie in bed at night and sometimes I open up my phone and look at my bank account and go, oh, that's okay. I'm okay. And that'll never leave me. And that's the thing is, Chris and Kerry, the thing is, and I'm not preaching to the converted or whatever, poverty isn't just about not having money. Poverty inhibits young people from aspiring to be poets and playwrights. Poverty makes your world so small. Poverty makes you not able to think about flying to Australia. Poverty makes very young people think that there is nothing else but this. They don't want to go to university. They don't want to become further learners. They don't want to go to the ballet. They don't want to open their minds to stuff. Because what is the point? Poverty isn't just about not having your dinner or electricity. Poverty is a fucking country that crumbles young people into believing that there's nothing worth anything. And that's what poverty has lasting effects on people. And it does to me. I still, when a bill comes in, I have to pay it straight away. And it's like, you have 28 days. I've never paid anything up. I've never had debt. I pay everything straight away. Everything straight away in case I can't pay it. And I'll end up a warrant sale and I'll be on the street with my furniture. And that's what poverty does.
Yeah. It's a biggie. I have a strange follow-on question to that, which is, when you're not in the poverty, when you're not in the worst of it, sometimes there's a fondness to certain parts. You know, a lot of it is a big shit bite, but there's another part where you think of, you know, some meal that you had to eat 7,000 times that you almost kind of like now. What's something there? Like, what is something that wasn't the worst of it, or that makes you still think of something sweet, or is it just all supposed to go in the bin?
Oh no, it was great. I mean, I say this a lot, that I had very great fun times in my childhood that Ashley never got. I got to roam the streets. I got to build my own bike. I got to run with dogs that I didn't even know that followed me about. I got to explore the area. I got to live summers up trees. I got to swim in a burn full of rats. I got love. My dad was very loving towards me. I was very much a loved child. You know, my mum as well, even though in her brokenness, she loved me. I was told I was loved. And I was abused and shit was happening that they didn't know about. But the flip side of that is I was told that I was loved and wanted. And that goes a long way to healing children as well.
Yes.
And that makes, I was not emotionally bereft as a child. My mommy, despite her problems, she was a talker, she was a reader, she was engaged in the world. We used to laugh and talk together. She was a great reader of books, and that she's passed that on to me, and I've passed that on to Ashley. And even though we were poor and we were hungry and sometimes it was shitty, she would pick up a book and go, let's read this. I'll read it first, then you read it. And we would chat about that. And you know, there was a lot of love and support in my family that people forget that children in poverty have too. You know, yeah, there was the insecurity of food. There was the worry that I wouldn't eat again. There was the worry that, you know, we'll get thrown out the house again and stuff, you know.
But you're raising an important point about creative works and stuff. That to be creative takes a certain amount of like self-actualization. That if you're living in poverty, worried about where your food's coming from, like you might not be able to attain. So we're losing poets and composers and comedians to poverty, even in the US, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard time for the arts, especially in Scotland, because comedy isn't seen as an art. In the art sector, it is in England and Wales, so we don't get the funding. I remember I came to Boston, to Cambridge for the Women in Comedy Festival, and I had to sign on the forum that I was a storyteller, because God forfend, that says I was a comedian, I wouldn't get the money. So I had to lie. Although I was going to Boston to do comedy, and I did a forum there telling everybody, it's fine, somebody's phone's going, don't worry.
You need to get your phone, Janey.
No, it's not mine.
That's my door. I don't know. Nobody comes to my door.
Anyway. And I had to go and do a forum at Boston and tell people about how to come to the Edinburgh Festival. So, you know, when comedy isn't recognised as an art, as it isn't in Scotland, then we won't get funding, and that's a big problem for the arts here.
Well, it's not unlike the struggle that rap had to be recognized as like music, as a legitimate form of music.
Yeah,
it takes time, and you have to take. Well, the other thing is you're trying to persuade people you're making fun of some of the time too. So, you know, like, this is art, and they're like, shut up, you're just calling me stupid.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one of the big problems is when comedians go cap in hand to the government that they've been kicking for years. They're like, yous are stupid. You're a stupid government. Politicians are bad. Can we have money to keep calling you bad?
You're right. Could we? This is a comment.
Yeah.
Ashley was bullied and got through it because of the love of her parents, and she can laugh about it.
Yeah, Ashley did a really good video about being bullied as well. She, I'm really blessed. She's great fun. I'm really lucky. She makes me laugh. The one thing we have in this family is laughter. Ashley and I, we did a 12-hour care-a-thon 2-3 weeks ago for the Carers Trust Scotland. It was to raise money for the carers. And Ashley raised, and it was her that did it, over £12,000. And she was reading out.
Is that like nurses? Carers are like nurses?
No, it's unpaid. It's like if you live at home with your mum and she's got multiple sclerosis, or if you're a husband that looks after her, you know, they're not very recognised. But Ashley read out her fan fiction, her sexy fan fiction, before she'd ever had a boyfriend. She wrote this really bizarre fan fiction. And every time people kept saying, we'll donate more money if you need another chapter. And oh my God, Chris, it was so funny. And you know how people say, I had a sore stomach laughing, and yet I literally had a stitch in my side. I laughed that much. I had to get up and leave the table and stretch. It was so bad. It was so bizarre. She kept making up. It was Harry Potter fan fiction. And every time they almost got to the bit when they had sex, either the house burnt down or somebody fainted and went into a coma. I could not going to get to the sex.
No.
Yeah, it was the best thing ever. We laugh a lot in here. We have good laughs.
So Cara just asked, would you rather be a comedian than a storyteller? I think you're both.
I think I'm both, but I have to write down storyteller on official forms because comedian sounds like I'm some sort of weirdo. I don't know.
Well, what do you need to do in Scotland? Yeah, to get comedy recognized.
People are campaigning. People are campaigning just now to get it recognised and get it funded. I mean, it's ridiculous because comedy, if you stop somebody in the street, Chris, in Scotland and say, name a famous Scottish ballerina who gets, you know, the funding, they couldn't. Name a famous physical theatre and dance group. Name a famous Scottish opera singer. No, name a famous Scottish comedian. They could come up with a name, but that's the one that isn't funded. So it's hard. But you have to diversify. You have to use your skills and talent and make people see you and enjoy your work so that it's not just live work. They have to enjoy your videos and stuff as well.
And your hand-painted cards.
Yeah, I'm up to high-do.
Well, listen, your voiceovers of what the government's telling you to do over there were pure gold. That was the first thing. Chloe sent it to me on a bad day, and you hear this a million times, I know, but you know, I just turned it right around because it's just the shenanigans of it. But is that also just a good way to deal with that feeling you have in your belly of, oh, here we go again? You know, it's just another rotten spot.
It's the same. No, the COVID briefings Nicola Sturgeon does. I mean, I don't just do. I do voiceovers of Boris and Big Teresa, and I do a lot of animals as well. But I do the Nicola ones because sometimes it's so high, Salt Spring. Sometimes it's so repetitive. Every day it's repetitive, and there's nothing new. So I try and brighten it up by saying this, and this. Frank, get the door. I want a baked potato and tuna today. My feet are killing me. You know, I try and make comedy out of it. And people get the message. You know, they get the message. So it's a bit like that. Jamie Oliver Devlin says, I donated half the money just to hear the fan fiction. It was so funny.
What makes me laugh about that is the American cartoon Bob's Burgers. Tina.
I love it.
Tina wrote fan fiction all the time, and it would be about zombies and horses and things like that. And it was all about trying to touch Jimmy Jr.'s butt, you know, in the fan fiction. So as you're saying it, I'm just thinking that was the real thing. That was better than Tina because it was the real story.
Ashley was doing that years ago. I can't believe that when I asked her how much, went 70,000 words. I was like, that's longer than the book I'm writing. What is wrong?
That's massive.
Yeah.
That's massive.
This person just finished your book, said it's the most gripping book she's ever read.
It's a shame that I die at the end.
Well, that's why you could tell your husband, that's why I can't write another book.
I die.
Yeah, it's over. Book's over.
Has Nicola responded to any of this by any chance?
Yeah, she's done a couple of videos where she said, I love Janey Godley's comedy, and I love that she's getting the message across. Yeah, she's said. Yeah, it also gets me a lot of trolls who are unionists, like, we hate you. I'm like, yeah, I'm still getting banged harder than a faulty washing machine door, Spunky, so you can ram it.
We're getting a whole lot of love for the Harry Draco pairing.
It was the funniest. I still haven't laughed like that than I did at that.
What would their celebrity couple name be? Like Draco?
Draco.
Or Jerry?
No, it wasn't Harry and Draco. It was one of the Weasleys and Hermione. I forget which Weasley it was, but oh Jesus, it was hysterical and it was so bad. But she's put it on YouTube, so I think you'll be able to see it.
Oh my God! Yes.
Oh, we'll have to all go find. We'll have to go find.
And she's now doing Twitch. Ashley does Twitch at night, and she does these. She plays games on Twitch, and everybody loves it. So she's enjoying her newfound fame on Twitch. She's told me I'm not allowed to join Twitch. It's the one thing she's got that I don't have to have a part of.
I just thought how great it would be to watch you play a video game on Twitch.
Are you going to charge her? Tell her if she pays you won't do it.
Yeah, right. It's Twitch /Ashley Story, whatever it is, twitch.tv /Ashley Story. And she's doing great on it. She loves it.
Yeah, people really respond to it. It's sort of the way this is going, you know, where it's all live and things move. But, you know, one thing I noticed is that, and I hadn't thought about this much, but when you have such a body of work and when you're known for such a body of work, do people just shout out their little bit of a punchline to the thing they want you to play, like a little jukebox? Does that the whole time you're performing? Is that how that goes?
Yeah, I mean, I've walked on stage and people are like, tell us about the dog. I'm like, mate, I need to get there because I don't really have a set. I don't know what I'm going to do when I go on stage till I get there, and then I think about what I'm going to do. So, yeah, it's nice, though. People are really kind. You know, in these shitty times, I have found that there is more kind people than there is assholes. The amount of people that has shown support and love and solidarity with each other has been very heartwarming because it's so easy to be a dick, you know, but there has been so much love and support shown that it's kind of got me through it. People think I do the live streams for them. I don't. I do it for me because people come on and go, Janey, how are you? And I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody different to speak to.
Yeah,
that's why you started doing them, Chris. Isn't that why you started doing them?
That's why I did them, because I didn't want to be stuck in a room with a cat eating my face off, you know, because I hadn't found a corpse after 8 days, you know.
I mean, that's not, there's an end to your book, I guess, when you start writing your autobiography. want to write your own ending in advance? Just put
it's you know, it's funny. I just left. You know, the reason I couldn't be backstage before this was I had promised some people in Dubai that I would speak to their class, and they're on the other side. You know, we were talking about the poverty. These people that I'm speaking to are the exact opposite side of that storyline. These are kids, you know, who have everything. But the challenge there, and you know, oh, woe is them. The challenge there is that it's really hard to choose to be creative, and it's really hard where they consume so much Western culture. It's all US shows. It's all, when we talked about people that they looked up to as influencers, it was 100% US people. Awful names too, like, you know, Logan and Jake Paul names and those sorts of people, right? You know? So that, like, when they said that, I was like, oh, and they said, oh, we pick a few others, and they were like, yeah. But what I was thinking of is, you know, even though they're on that side, they're not realizing how important it is to get out and use their voice. Janey, there's all these people here who are still scaredy cats, and you weren't. What do you do to them? Do you just hit them right in the belly? What's the, how do we make them laugh?
I think it's easy to live your life online and look up to, you know, people who, I mean, it's very easy to mock the Kardashians and influencers and people who walk about with their bikini and licking an ice lolly. It's easy to mock them, but you know, it's hard to be creative at times. So maybe that's their way of expressing themselves. And I'm a great believer in, you know, just being yourself. I mean, I don't have great eyebrows. A man has never walked into a bar and went, oh, I was going to have sex with her, but her eyebrows are tufty. It doesn't really matter. The world is different from that. The world is about people enjoying and taking on their creative. I mean, I've watched some kids do makeup tutorials and thought, that's great. They have found their wee niche and they're enjoying that. That's just wonderful. And they're in their house and they're doing their wee thing. And I think that just warms my heart. And watching young people make cakes or doing crafting, I love those videos. They're really good for your mental health as well. I'm like, oh, I never knew you could do that with a tile and vinegar and carbonated soda. What is that? So I think that young people should just find what they're good at and not be scared. Don't be scared. See, one of the biggest things we've got in the world is being scared of people's reaction. We're scared to do stuff in case people go, that's shit. I want people to say that shit so I can get better at whatever it is I want to do. And if I want to sit and doodle and people say, I don't like your drawings, I'm like, nobody's forcing your eyes. Nobody's doing that. Look at my drawings. I don't care. Go away and look at something else. People are so scared that they'll be disapproved of. But, you know, when you're lying in your deathbed and you've only got 2 hours left, you'll be like, fuck, I should have made that crimped tile thing that I wanted to do. Just grab life and do it. It's important that you don't always just wait on approval. Sometimes art is about exploring your own approval and enjoying it.
I tell my kids, you can fail at something you hate doing just as easily as you can fail at something you love. So just try it. Absolutely. And it's just people's opinion. I've got people who say, I absolutely hate every video you've ever made. I went, yeah, here you are. Watching them all.
So job done, dude. You know.
Well, Chris is the permission fairy, right? I've seen Chris post many times, hey, consider this your permission to go do the thing that you want to do. I feel like
Janey just granted some big permission there. I want to go. There's so many things I've got to.
First, who would you pick to play yourself in the film, Janey?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'd go with Claire Danes for me. You know, she's hot, but not like too hot. Like it can't be ridiculous.
I don't know. I would pick an unknown Scottish actress who was good at doing her job. Just don't know.
I like it.
Yeah.
I have a few, so don't touch anything, Carrie, because I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do. First off, Chloe says the neighbor made a Frank get the door sign and stuck it in their window so people could see it while waiting for the bus. I thought that was great.
I love that.
Morag gave us credit, Carrie, for actually understanding Janey's accent. But I will tell you, Chloe sent me 2 very long videos last night, well past her bedtime, to make sure I had some of the better Glasgow words in there so that I couldn't mess up, you know. I've failed them all, but you've Americaned up enough for me that I can get it.
I'm speaking to you like you're a baby.
Right. That's Americaning it down, Chris.
That's helping.
Not Americaning it up.
Did I say up? Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants a free 13-year-old cat, slightly used,
I love your cat.
Ship it.
You're not going to build that cat a ramp?
Yeah, I'll ramp to the window. It's the third floor. So yeah. Janey, one last question. It's always the one I like to ask. What needs to go into the backpack of people right now so that they can survive the next 5 years? What little thing will we stick in their backpack?
A compass. So that you could always find your way home. A compass. That would help you to find your true north. That sounds cheesy. A pen. Always have a pen or a pencil handy so you can write stuff down. Yeah. Just write stuff. Always write stuff down. Even write it on your hands if you need to. Evidently we did bra. Which when we say that over here, bra is like what you say to like every male and female under a certain age. Bruh. But no, bra means good in Scottish. Bra. That's bra. That means that's good. Bra.
All right. And last comment from the gallery. Jackie says that, that girl that played the lead in Wild Rose, she could play you.
I was in Wild Rose.
Well, there we have it.
I was in that film. I was the barmaid in that film. That was the first feature film I was ever in.
Go watch it again.
I'm a barmaid, which is easy because I was a barmaid for 15 years.
Oh my gosh. Right. Well, we're kicking you out the door because that's what we do. Janey Godley, thank you so much for being part of it. It was just brilliant. Thank you for being part of it all.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing the gang. Look, if you're new here, because a lot of you are new here, I've never seen any of you. Come back another time. We won't have Janey. Nobody will be as good, but it could be good. You'll also learn just one little detail.